Let's look at the two basic types of cells. You have eukaryotic cells and prokaryotic cells. The biggest difference is eukaryotic cells have a membrane enclosed nucleus and prokaryotic cells do not. Eukaryotic cells also have membrane enclosed structures called organelles, and they make up the bodies of animals, plants, fungi, and protists. Whereas prokaryotic cells tend to be smaller than eukaryotic cells, they're thought of as more simpler forms of life, and all eukaryotic cells are going to have a nucleus, whereas all prokaryotic cells have genetic material, but they don't have a nucleus to keep it in. Also, keep in mind that eukaryotic cells belong to domain eukarya, and prokaryotic cells can be of domain bacteria or archaea. And cells are small, whether it's 1 to 100 micrometers, which is a millionth of a meter in diameter. They're small, and prokaryotic cells tend to be much smaller than eukaryotic cells. And while cells are small, they still can exchange waste and nutrients with their external and internal environments. They use processes like diffusion, where we have molecules dissolved in fluids that move relatively slowly through their plasma membrane. They do watch closely and maintain their internal and external environment, and they're able to get rid of things they don't want and take in things they do. But cells also share other common features, whether they're prokaryotic or eukaryotic. And that's because they are all descended from an ancestor that arose about 3.5 billion years ago. Here are the things that all cells have in common. They all have a plasma membrane that gives a cell an inside and an outside. It provides a boundary. They all have genetic material called DNA. They have ribosomes to take that genetic material and make proteins. And they have cytosol, which is the fluid you find things like ribosomes floating within. Now, if we're talking about domains bacteria and archaea, we're looking at prokaryotic cells. We're looking at domain eukarya. Again, we're looking at eukaryotic cells. And eukaryotic cells do have some distinguishing factors that we don't see in prokaryotic cells, like that membrane enclosed nucleus and their membrane enclosed organelles, or small organs that perform specific functions. Keep in mind that eukaryotic and prokaryotic are two types of cells, but prokaryotic is going to be a much smaller and simpler type of cell in structure. So here are images of two prokaryotes, one on the left from domain bacteria and one on the right from domain archaea. Note they're very small, and here we actually only have scanning electron micrographs of what they look like. Here is, though, an animal cell, and this is from domain eukarya. Note the many different organelles, like the Golgi apparatus and the mitochondrion, but also note the nucleus. So there's a membrane enclosed space to keep the genetic material in a eukaryotic cell. Plant cells are also in domain eukarya, and they have a cell wall on top of a plasma membrane, but they also have that nucleus and many membrane enclosed organelles. So, as we continue on, we're going to talk about these basic attributes of cells. We're going to be looking at things like the plasma membrane. We'll look at things like the inside cytoskeletal elements, what makes energy and utilizes it. So, make sure to watch those videos as well.